I think that everything that I was going to say has already been said. So I'm not really sure what more I can add to these very fine presentations. I would like to say that my former chief of social work service, Larry Peterson, is out there in the audience, and I just want to give him a shout out. He's the reason why I'm here today. He hired me 25 years ago. So I owe him a great debt. Thank you, Larry. I also want to thank Bernie Brody for helping me set up my tent this weekend at an AFSP Out of the Darkness walk in Fuquay. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I was going to be able to set up my tent. Thank you very much. I see he and I are going to be doing a lot of collaboration with each other. I especially like that part that Lindsay was talking about with the Green Dot training, because I think that to be successful in suicide prevention is we need to step outside of our comfort zone. And we need to really be there, to be fully present with whoever it is that we're working with who's having thoughts of killing themselves. And what I mean by being there is to be fully present and to listen to that person. One of the things that I know, if somebody is not listening to me, I sometimes wonder, do they care about me if they're not being fully present and listening to what I'm saying? So I think that as you know, people on the front lines, people who work with folks who are at elevated risk for suicide, to be there for them, to be fully present, to listen to them. I think we can take a good example from our chaplains, who are wonderful listeners. I have a chaplain on my team, and he often makes the mistake about asking me the question, well, Gary, how's it going? And then I let him have it with both barrels for about 20 minutes, and he just kind of sits there and listens to me, and he doesn't offer any advice or ideas or suggestions or comments or questions or anything like that. He just listens. And I feel so much better afterward. I'm going like, well, what was that all about? You know, it's really not rocket science. So just for the sake of time and not to repeat everything that's already been said, I just want to throw up some recent statistics on the Veterans Crisis Line. It's been there for 10 years. And I've been doing, you know, counseling in the VA for 25 years, so what did we do for the first 15 years before we had the crisis line? How did we even function without it is beyond me. But look at the number of calls that we've had over those 10 years. You know, 2.5 million calls. And chats for people who are uncomfortable in talking over the phone. You can chat online on the internet. And then if you're like a millennial and you text, 60,000 texts. And all of that resulted in 66,000 rescues. Think about that for a moment. All the people that may have died from suicide where the crisis line intervened, dispatched rescue. So I just want to kind of just reinforce what we've been doing already. The trends, I think, will go down. I know that it seems like right now, with increased public awareness, that, you know, the rates seem to be going in the wrong direction. But I think this is going to be all hands on deck. Suicide prevention is everybody's business. Don't feel like you have to be an expert to be a good listener. Don't feel like you have to have any special training to be a friend. I find that more often than not, people are looking for support where they can find it. And I would just end that if you haven't gone through a gatekeeper training, like an assist, a QPR, a SAVE training, a SAFE talk, go ahead and do it. It's really fairly simple and fairly straightforward. There's usually an acronym involved to kind of remind you what the steps are and what the proper order is. I would say that the one thing that all of these trainings have in common is to ask the question. Ask the question, are you having thoughts of killing yourself? Because I'm your friend, and I have a stake in the outcome, and I don't want you to die by suicide. So I would think that in summary, okay, all right, okay, I'm being offered a few more minutes here. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Again, I just want to really emphasize the importance of being there for a person that you care about. I am a survivor of suicide. What that means, I have lost loved ones to suicide. I really do not want anybody to join my club, because being a survivor of suicide, it does a couple of things. It makes you ask the question, why? Why did my friend, why did my colleague, why did my battle buddy, why did that person take his or her life. But it also does something else. It makes one extremely passionate about saving more lives from suicide. And that's where I get a lot of my source for doing what I do. I'm often told that it is stressful. It is. It can be gruesome. It could be dreadful. It could be just outright, there are no words. But again, this is what really fuels my passion, is knowing what it's like to having lost loved ones to suicide. I think that a take-home message would be like, when you're working with somebody who's contemplating suicide, recognize that that is a solution to a problem. That in this person's mind, whatever it is that's bothering them, whatever it is that's keeping them up at night, whatever it is that's troubling them, it is solvable in most cases without having to die. So what we are going to do is we try to come up with something that's more positive and more appropriate to solve that problem, whatever it is. So when I'm working with somebody who's contemplating with suicide, I go into a problem-solving mode, usually with that person. And if I don't know the solution to that problem, I'll try to find somebody who may. And I'll go ahead and make that referral. I'll expedite it. But I think that in many respects, it is being a good Samaritan. That's all it is. Caring for someone the way that you would care about yourself. I often think about that parable very much, where somebody might walk by somebody who's in trouble and say, well, I'm not qualified. I don't have the training. I don't have the expertise to help this problem. And then maybe somebody would come by, well, I'm busy right now. I don't feel like I have the time necessary to help this individual. I said, you are authorized, empowered, expected, deputized, encouraged to do whatever you can, even though that's not your full-time job, to assist this person. And also take the time, make the time. It's worth it. Those instances, those times where I think I've made a difference in someone's life, where I saved someone's life, it's a wonderful feeling. It's absolutely indescribable. So for those of us who have had that privilege to make a difference in someone's life, I would highly recommend that you do that. There is a resource up there. It's a hyperlink, but that's the Veterans Crisis Line. And there's a lot of resources on that website, more than I could probably go into. I also brought an outreach packet. I would hope that each and every one of you would take one with you home today. It has information on the crisis line. It has information on Make the Connection. It has a gun lock in there. So if you know of somebody who needs a gun lock, these make excellent stocking stuffers. Go ahead and maybe pass that on to them. Yes, then they're the right color for that. So I'm going to go ahead and end there. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming out, your time, your attention. I know that you're very busy people. And if there's anything you need from me, let me know. The best way to get up with me is probably via email. But I'm interested in working with each and every one of you in partnership to do what we can to save more lives from suicide. Thank you so much.